He was trying to call in with a question, but I think that it stopped my live stream. So let's jump back in with Los Mestinos. This is about the story of Spanish ranchers and, frankly, colonizers from 1721 to 1821. And you want to hear somebody he was a slave, and he is able to comment on what it was like as a slave within America. Definitely recommend The Portable Frederick Douglass by Penguin Classics. Next up, my favorite cowboy book, the best cowboy book I've ever read, The Last Buckaroo by Mackie Hedges. This book is about, it's fiction, but if you're into Louis L'Amour, this is even better. This is written from a buckaroo's perspective, and it's just a story of a guy named Tap and I think this younger guy named Dean, and they stick it out for about 10 years, and they're just riding and they're going ranch to ranch. Pretty good book. It's pretty insightful. Next up, I'm reading The Alchemist, or I read it in one day. This is what a lot of people subscribe to. I don't know if I personally subscribe to it, but I do. I like what the book has to say. The moral of the story is that it's not the results that you should be going after, but more the process of how you get to the results. Next, I have Nothing Too Good for a Cowboy. This is the second in a series written by Richmond Hobson, and it's about these guys who go from upper United States into Canada, and they start a cattle empire. If you're really into wolves and bears and shooting and guns and horses, this is definitely the book for you. Nothing Too Good for a Cowboy. Great book, starting me on my cowboy journey. If you're into literature and you want a piece of America, go for William Faulkner, Light in August. My dad just sent me a message. It says, Craig versus Toilet. He might be watching. I don't know. William Faulkner, Light in August. Great book. It's about slavery, Jim Crow, that era in U.S. history. There's a great picture of William Faulkner on the back. Interestingly enough, Ernest Hemingway once said that Faulkner could have been one of the greatest writers of all time, but he went downhill. Yeah. Let's continue. Of course, you gotta have some Louis L'Amour. I haven't actually read this one, but it looks pretty good. Louis on the back. I think he received like the Great American Award from Ronald Reagan, which is pretty mind-boggling considering he's just a Western writer. Next we have Believe by Buck Brannaman. This book will actually make you believe in horsemanship. It's just full of testimonies of people who met Buck and how he changed their life through horsemanship. For example, each chapter is labeled with things that Buck taught them. Chapter 3, Overcoming the Past. Chapter 4, Working Things Through. Let's see. We got a bunch of stories. We have pictures in here. Overall, a really great book if you're into horsemanship and just learning about Buck Brannaman and his story. Incredible. Take these bad boys off. Not really a Western book, but Pilgrim's Progress. This is a classic. It was written by a guy, I think Paul Bunyan. John Bunyan. Yeah. John Bunyan. And he wrote this, I believe, in a prison cell. And he didn't have anything else to do during the day, so he wrote this book. And it's just about the journey of somebody's soul from unsaved to saved. And I'm about halfway through it. Just another book that I'm working through. I had to read this book for history class. This is called The Cowboy. I think one of the most interesting things that I have seen in the cowboy world is, it's called a stag dance. Here's a picture of one. These are actually cowboys dancing in their bunkhouse. And what the author Blake Allmendinger is trying to say is that these cowboys and their masculinity and everything about them, like, we romanticize them, but the cowboy has a darker side as well, meaning we don't hear about all of the bad things that cowboys done, but this book really jumps into it. Let's go to one of my post-it notes. Yeah, one of my post-it notes says depression causes cowboys to quit. There's a lot of drifting. There is, let's see, cowboy identifies with the congregation's oppressed and unwanted because he envisions himself as being oppressed by his ranching employer. It's not really something you're going to hear about in a Louis L'Amour book or you watch that on the screen. These cowboys, like, this analysis is actually pretty legit and real, in my opinion. Again, Cowboy Representations of Labor in an American Work Culture by Blake Allmendinger. Ooh, here we go. I got 2 cowboy cookbooks. I've only cooked about 2 of his meals from this book. This was actually a gift from one of my friends named Beth. She wants me to cook a lot more of these things, but frankly, it's just a bunch of fried food. I don't know. It's mostly just Western movie stars. I'm not really into that. Like, here's the Bronze Buckaroo, Herb Jeffries. What else do we have? We have Cheyenne chicken fried steak, Rusty's pork chops. I actually starred that one because I might eat that. Yeah, we have Clint Eastwood in there too. But this guy is actually really good. I like his style. He's based out of Oklahoma. He's on the Red River. You go on YouTube, look up Kent Rollins, and you'll find how to make a bunch of really good cowboy food. I think he cooks out of a chuck wagon as well. See some of this stuff on the back. Kent Rollins is one of my favorite people ever to appear on Chopped. Kent Rollins is the real deal. Heartwarming stories. Kent and Shannon have taken me along the plains of Oklahoma in their chuck wagon without my ever having set a foot there. Recommend if you're into cooking. Taste of Cowboy, Kent Rollins. What else we got? We got my big boy, my Horsemanship Bible. This is by Bill Dorrance, as you can see here. And I like to say that Tom Dorrance and Bill Dorrance are the people who helped out horsemanship the most in the last century. And Bill Dorrance is more technical analysis, while Bill Dorrance is kind of speaking in riddles. If I can pull up his book, let's see the difference. So, for example, in my Horsemanship Bible, it says here, separating balance from dependence on the reins and the better posture. And then he just breaks it down, and he literally shows with pictures how to do it. There's the pictures on how to do it. Wow. His brother, Tom Dorrance, True Unity, here's how he goes about things. He says, just as important as the ones they have found that work for them. Sometimes there can be some dandy spots, but in between there are all those flat spots and sour notes. So if you're going to be reading True Unity by Bill Dorrance, you really have to know what you're talking about, and you have to know how to ride horses pretty well. Whereas if you're reading True Horsemanship Through Feel, this is more like a technical analysis. This will help you, the big book will help you when you're just beginning. But as you start to progress, this little book is what's going to get you to the next level. see what else we got. The Great Cowboy Strike, Bullets, Ballots, and Class Conflicts in the American West by Mark A. Louse. This book kind of proved critical in my senior thesis. It was a 40-page paper, and I wrote about why did cowboys become cowboys. And my thesis was that cowboys became cowboys specifically in Texas because they wanted money. And this book just shows that these cowboys went on strike because they wanted higher wages. There's a narrative out there that cowboys just wanted to explore and be free, and they became cowboys just for the tradition, just because they could, and it was awesome. But this book kind of wipes that clean. It just shows that cowboys are real people. They want money just like the rest of us. Mark A. Louse, great book. I think it kind of just dives into one specific perspective. But I recommend if you're into history. If you're not, don't go for it. You won't like it. What else do we have here? Oh, okay. This is my favorite historical book, Cowboys, Ranchers, and the Cattle Business. And this is basically a book about Canadian ranching history. The book is a collection of shorts. So historians submitted different stories to this book, or articles as they call it in the history world. So it's just a collection of articles, and the deeper you dive into this book, the cooler it becomes. So for example, you start off with basic definition of Canada and the United States, and by the end you're basically becoming a Canadian the longer you read this book. And this is by Simon Evans, Sarah Carter, Bill Yeo, Cowboys, Ranchers, and the Cattle Business, Cross-Border Perspectives on Ranching History. Pretty good book. Lines on Horses. This is another technical analysis of horsemanship. This book, written by John Lyons, it will step you through the process of starting a horse. So he takes you from day one with a colt all the way to, let's see how far he gets, all the way to successful trailer loading. So if you're trying to become a horse trainer and, I don't know, you want to train your own horses, you hop on this book, you do what he says, supposedly you can get all the way to trailer loading and sell off a $1,000 horse for $10,000. My opinion, I think I could probably do it. There's probably some more books you want to read before you go out and try, just based off of this book. But I highly recommend if you're looking to fill some gaps in your horsemanship, colt starting. See what else we got. Not really a Western book. C.S. Lewis, complete C.S. Lewis signature classics. Highly recommend C.S. Lewis to any budding Western historian, any budding cowboy, anybody who's trying to be a better person. Recommend reading C.S. Lewis. Even if you're not a Christian, I think that C.S. Lewis is just an overall great author who really focuses on what it means to be human and our connection with God. Once in the Saddle. This is the book that started it all for me. This book was the first, and still is, the first history book that I read about Western history, written by Lawrence Seidman. It's really interesting because the book starts off with the bookettle, and every chapter has its own song. This is called Rain or Shine. I'm not going to sing it for you. I have a friend named Benny Chung who would be able to. He sings for, I forget, In the Stairwell, the Air Force Academy. But Once in the Saddle by Lawrence Seedman. Great book. Chapter titles, all that jazz. The Great Plains, The Cradle of the Cattle Kingdom, Abilene and the Chisholm Trail, Up the Trail. If you're really into the cattle drives and learning about the cowboy, highly recommend Once in the Saddle. It started me off on my Western history and cowboy career. If you're looking to start off, and even if you're looking to fill some holes, get this book. Really good. It's like 15 bucks on Amazon. Next up. Well, we don't need to do that one. Don't worry, it's not bad. The best loved poems of the American people. So, let's say you're out at the ranch and you have no service like I was, and all you have is books, and you're looking to entertain yourself. It's after supper and it's only 6 o'clock and you have nothing to do. You start reading poetry. And I want to read some poetry to you guys, but maybe that's something for the future, because I don't love you guys that much. Sorry. I only read to Anna, my wife. But best loved poems of the American people. And I tell you what, even cowboys read poetry. So I suggest you go for it. One of the books that started Horsemanship. This is a book by Ray Dorrance, Think Harmony with Horses. And Ray Hunt, Bill Dorrance, Tom Dorrance. And hey, what's up, DJ? I'll read poetry to you. I'll wait for your comment back. DJ, I don't know why you're watching my live stream. You're not even into this stuff. But Ray Hunt, Think Harmony with Horses. He is one of the greatest horsemen of all time. Just like the Dorrances, he impacted horsemanship in the last century, probably more than anybody that we know. Yeah, who cares about history? Not me. I don't care about that. Except, it says the American history major, right? Got some final stuff. This is a movie. This is about buckaroos in Nevada. DJ know all about this. Called The Remuda. It's in the Vaquero series. Really cool. You can get that on Amazon. It's called The Remuda. The Rancher Takes a Wife by Richmond P. Hobson Jr. This is the third book in his trilogy, I should say. It's not a fiction, it's a nonfiction. Highly recommend if you're lonely and you're looking for companionship, you can also go take a wife. And then I think to close it all out, we have Louis L'Amour, End of the Drive. Overall, great book. Highly recommend. Like I said, Louis L'Amour, Great American Award or whatever. He is the premier Western writer. So, I hope you all enjoyed going through some of my books with me. And shout out to DJ for leaving some comments. And to Zach for interrupting my live stream. Thank you all. Have a great day. This was the hidden book. Hope you can see that. Adios. How do I pause this? I don't know. What do I do, guys? How do I flip it? Oh, okay. This is how you end it. You click the X in the corner.